vote is set for May 11. While it has already passed the New South Wales Lower House, it is awaiting a vote in the Legislative Council. Joining me live is Zoe Coyle, CEO and founder of Pilot Light and writer. Great to see you, Zoe. How are you?
I'm really well. Lovely to see you, Janie.
So you're the author of Where the Light Gets In, a great book, and it's got a strong focus on the need for many people to have the choice of voluntary assisted dying laws to be enforced. How important is this for you?
Well, from a personal perspective, I think that everyone should have the right to die at the time of their choosing and with dignity. So it's hugely important to me.
And you have a personal story. Did it inspire you to write the book? And tell us about the book.
In part, in small part. Look, it is a fictional book and I created fictional characters to explore some of the themes that were important to me. But one of them was around what happens to us after we face terrible tragedy. And the story is about a young woman named Delphi Hoffman who is living in London, and she's just getting her life together, a new job and a new love affair. And she's called across the world to Tasmania to help her mother die. Her mother has a terminal illness and has decided to euthanize herself. So as dark as that sounds, the book is also about hope and how we put ourselves back together. I love Konsugi is one of the epigraphs, which is the Japanese art of golden repair, that when a ceramic is broken, you mend it back together with gold, rendering the mended object more beautiful than the original.
And your personal story as well. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, I will. So my mama, who I adored her, still do. Over 20 years ago, she took her own life. She euthanized in Tasmania, where at that time voluntary assisted dying wasn't legal. So the ramifications of that meant that I couldn't be with her when she died. And obviously, the death of anyone, any parent that you love, or anyone in any way is deeply traumatic. But for me, the fact that I couldn't be with her, I think that really compounded my grief. And so that was, as you say, part of the sort of germination of this novel, looking at how, when you've been broken apart like that, can you put yourself back together to live more meaningfully and in greater connection.
A lot of people say it's quite incredible that New South Wales is the only state left in Australia for the bill not to be passed. And as we mentioned before, May 11, we will certainly find out more. Are you confident that it will get passed?
I am, but I'm an optimist by nature, but I hope so. Last time it didn't pass by just one vote. And it seems to me, I mean, as you mentioned, unusual that New South Wales is last. I really hope so, because I hope it for all other families. I wouldn't want what happened to us to happen to anybody else.
And Zoe, you're also the CEO of Pilot Light, where you facilitate people's knowledge and growth to reach their full potential. With what's being called the Great Resignation as a result of the pandemic, we're seeing huge amounts of people leaving or considering leaving their job. What are some of the fundamentals needed in a business and as a leader?
Well, look, this is a subject that is so close to my heart. I go into all sorts of organizations to teach leadership. And fundamentally, that process of how do we become a good leader is through introspection. I'm not talking about self-indulgence, but knowing ourselves and being able to operate from a place of authenticity and grounded confidence, rather than, to use Brene Brown's language, armoring up. So coming into connection. And I'm seeing this revolution happening. There's a beautiful Manu Shafiq quote. She's the head of the London School of Economics. And she said that in the past, jobs were about muscles. Right now, they're about brains. And in the future, they'll be about the heart. And that's what I'm seeing in organizations, that leaders that are connected to their heart, understand emotions, are capable of empathy and connection. They're the ones that are powerful and leading the charge.
And when you're working with CEOs and organisations, I know you work in a huge amount and very diverse as well. What is the feedback once you talk to them and they learn this?
Well, it's such a privilege, and I know that sounds a bit pretentious to say, but I find it such a privilege to do this work with people because I very often hear from people that the work is life-changing and life-enhancing. And so not just at work, but who they are as a husband, a wife, a mother, a lover, a friend, a parent. And so it's not that unusual to have someone in the first lunch break say, I've got to go and make a phone call to make a few apologies for the last 20 years of behavior. But they feel euphoric and empowered to live more authentically and with less concern and less disconnection. So I'm hugely optimistic about it.
Well, it's fantastic chatting to you, and congratulations on your book, Where the Light Gets In, and certainly one to read. Plenty of amazing reviews. Zoe Coyle, CEO and founder of Pilot Light and writer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jenny. My absolute pleasure. Bye-bye.
Well, let's turn to some other news. Ukrainian